Listen, I don't want any more bullshit.
Dearly beloved, we are here today to get through this Mortal Kombat kick in the genitals we got on Sunday. Oh man, what can we say? With everything they waited and worked for this whole season right in the palm of their hand, in their complete control, our beloved Colts fucking choked. There ain't no other way to say it. And you know what? When shit like this happens, you have a tough loss like that, a crushing defeat like that, you need to hear from your boy more than ever. You need to hear somebody tell you the truth. So I want to welcome you, if you've been here before, if you're new, to the one, the only 100% official bullshit-free Colts podcast, the only place that you can hear everything Colts with no coach speak, no spin, no PR, no political correctness, and most importantly, as always, absolutely 1,000% no bullshit. Look, I'm your man, Harkon Ajala, the bad boy genius at your service as always. Man, this was a rough one. This was a rough one. This was like, you know what this was like? This was like if you were getting a $1,000 bonus on your paycheck, every paycheck for 5 months, and then the big bonus is coming up. You get the paycheck. It's your Christmas bonus. You get a $10,000 Christmas bonus. And then the next day, after you've been pumping your fist and raising the roof all night, just as you're on the way to Best Buy to get that 80-inch flat screen 4K Ultra HD TV, your job calls you and says, hey, sorry, we made a mistake. We need you to pay that $10,000 back. Yeesh. That's what it feels like when you fight through a whole season. You get up off the mat after losses. You make big play after big play and punch your way back to win big game after big game, only to fall on your fucking face in the biggest game of the year and possibly put yourself in position to make everything you fought for up to this point in vain. That's what it fucking feels like when you have a 28-7 lead in a game that is about to hand you the AFC South Division crown on a platter with 20 minutes left, and you wind up losing 28-24. Man, we even had to put up with watching bitch-ass Eric Ebron do his fuckboy wave because I guess he thinks that scoring a 5-yard touchdown makes him all pro. Now look, you know my promise to you. I'm not going to pull punches. I'm not going to blow any smoke up your ass. The outcome of this loss is pretty much all bad. This is the worst loss of the season without a doubt. This is a pure, unmitigated, and unadulterated fucking choke. We may as well just go ahead and get that out the way, call a spade right now. We love the team, but they fucking choked Sunday. But before we deep into everything, let me take a break right now and ask you to please hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button. It will help us out quite a bit with the YouTube algorithm so the YouTube knows that our videos are of value to real people, not bullshit bots. And if you appreciate what we're doing here on the page, you value what we're giving you, please hit that button in the description. Give us a donation, even if it's $1, $5, $10, whatever it is. It helps us to create more and more content the way you like. While you're doing that, let me go ahead and shout out a few of the new people that I've seen who've been supporting the podcast and commenting below because I appreciate you. Want to shout out Stealthy Prime, Plug Outlet, of course, Lawrence Owen again, Edsel Ferguson, Indigo Child, who's tripped me out, Robbie, Colts fan for life, of course, James Boguski, hopefully I said that right, Juan Romo, Christopher Kine, my man Chris Dwayne, of course, Christopher Pooler, Robin Williams, and Swift Gal. Appreciate you guys commenting and supporting the page. Trust me, you, dear listener, are the reason I do this, for the real fans that want the real deal, not the shield deal. So let's get back to it. I mean, look, you already knew that the Titans were going on the road to play a very motivated Green Bay Packers team. The Titans lost. They got blown out 40-14. if the Colts had hung on to a 17-point lead for 20 more fucking minutes, today they'd be sitting at the top of the AFC South with an 11-4 record. The Titans would be 10-5, and all the Colts would need to do would be to beat lowly, sad-ass, has no reason to try to win Jacksonville at home on Sunday in order to not only wrap up a playoff spot, but a home playoff spot as the AFC South champions. Instead, we now find ourselves in this situation. You wasted the opportunity we've been waiting for weeks, which is for Tennessee to slip up or run into a team that isn't a soft touch and lose. So we wasted that opportunity. Instead of what I just described to you, sitting pretty at the top of the AFC South on the way to a division crown, here's where we are. We now need to beat Jacksonville next week, and we need one of 4 teams to lose next week. We either need the Cleveland Browns to lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers, we need the Miami Dolphins to lose on the road to the Buffalo Bills, or we need the Baltimore Ravens to lose on the road to the Cincinnati Bengals, who, of course, do not have their franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow. I'd say that one is not very likely. I'd also say here's the problem. The Miami losing at Buffalo would have been really likely, but here's the problem. Because we lost again to the Steelers, that handed the Steelers the AFC North crown. So they really don't have any reason to play for next week. At least they don't think so. I think they do. But at any rate, they've already announced that they're going to rest some of their players, including their quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, and bringing in the virtuous Mason Rudolph. If you ever seen Mason Rudolph play, I don't need to tell you how long a shot this is, not to mention that this is going to be against a Cleveland Browns team who faltered, and fucked around and lost to the Jets Sunday, which means the Cleveland Browns have to win in order to make sure they get in the playoffs. So that one doesn't look that great now. And because of that, because the Steelers don't appear to be trying to win, it may mean that the Buffalo Bills don't think they need to try to win either, so they may rest players, handing an easier time to Miami to try to win. If all 3 of those teams win, then we only have one other very slim chance, which is hoping that the Titans will go on the road and lose to the Houston Texans, who, are 4-11 and actually lost to Cincinnati. So look, all hope is not lost, because personally, I would not be very surprised to see the Titans lose to the Texans. The Texans may pull it together, trying to knock the Titans out of position in the playoffs, or maybe even out of the playoffs. I don't know how that works out. I also think that Miami still could lose to the Buffalo Bills, because the Buffalo Bills defense is amazing. So it's not like all is lost. Again, the way Cincinnati's been playing the last few weeks, who knows? Maybe they shock the Ravens. We got 4 shots at a team that we need to lose, and then all we got to do is take care of beating the Jacksonville Jaguars Sunday at home. And let's be honest, you know what? If we don't beat the fucking Jacksonville Jaguars at home Sunday, I hope all the other 4 teams win, because we will have no business. In no way will we deserve to make the playoffs, especially after choking away this game against the Steelers. So look, if we don't beat the Jags, I don't want us to back in any way. I don't even know that we can, but I don't want it to happen. We will deserve what we get. And you know what? If we don't make the playoffs at all, everything goes wrong. Let's say we win, but everybody else wins too, and we don't make the playoffs, so fucking be it. We will also deserve to miss the playoffs, because as we talked about some time ago, we shouldn't have lost to Jacksonville in the first game of the season. We all knew that might come back and bite us in the ass. If we hadn't lost it, we'd still be in position to win the AFC South right now. And number 2, most importantly, we went on the road with a lot of shit against us and had a 24-7, 17-point lead against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were doing nothing to that point. We were shutting them down, completely dominating them. And then we fucking fell apart in the last 20 minutes and gave up 21 points and didn't score another point in the last 20 minutes of that game. It was a collapse from the top down. And so, you know what? If we missed the playoffs, we had our shot. We gave ourselves that shot. We put ourselves in position, and we fucking fell apart and failed. So be it. So, like I said, everything, all the fallout from that loss in Pittsburgh, that heart-rending, sickening loss, was bad, except for one thing. If you're, like me, an enlightened guy that likes to look at everything the way it is, one thing. When you have a game that happens like that, you have a loss like that at this point in the season with the things you have riding on the line, it is a good, how should I say this, like a magnifying glass that allows you to analyze and self-scout yourself to say, you know what, since the goal, the ultimate goal every year, especially for this Colts team, is to get to the Super Bowl and win it, this is a magnifying glass that allows us to step back, take a look, analyze, what are we missing? What do we need in order to become a full-on, bona fide Super Bowl contender next year? Because that's what this thing has got to be about. We need to win a Super Bowl. And I can tell you that this game, along with everything we've seen this season, it really gives us some definitive answers on what we need to do. Period. End of story. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, of course, we got to, unfortunately, I know we hate to, but we kind of got to go back and take a look at what the fuck went wrong in this game. And we'll do that in the segment that you and I love, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get in it. So what went good in this game? I mean, I don't think anybody could really argue with the fact that the perfect way to describe this game was a tale of two halves. The first half, everything went fucking great. And keep in mind, we need to be real about this. Going into this game, I was worried about it. I really was like, I don't know if we can pull this one off. When I find out a day before the game that we're going to be missing not one, but both of our starting tackles on the offensive line. Now, we've seen what happens when Anthony Costanzo doesn't play on the left side. But to not have Anthony Costanzo, who I guess tweaked his ankle again, and then also not have Braden Smith on the right side, who really could be a Pro Bowl tackle this year if shit was fair, but I mean, we know it isn't. But honestly, I mean, remember, the backup to Costanzo was fucking LaRaven Clark. Need I say any more? I mean, I don't need to really say any more to tell you how fucking dire it is if Anthony Costanzo misses the game. But LaRaven Clark is out for the season with a blown Achilles as of a couple of games ago. So we're looking at Chaz Green starting, I guess, and then whoever else they got off the street. I think they brought in Jamarcus Webb again off the street a couple of days ago. You're looking at two people like that starting at the tackles against fucking Blitzburgh, against the number one pass rushing defense in the league, against the number two, I think, defense in the league, and they should be number one. That was not a prescription for anything going well, right? So when we find ourselves able to play as well as we're playing in the first half of this game, up 21-7 at the end of the half, and let me just say, Pittsburgh couldn't do anything. They shouldn't even have had 7 points. The only reason they had 7 points is because fucking Chaz Green gets beat by TJ Watt. It leads to a sack fumble. And Chaz Green then isn't even good enough to fucking jump on the ball. He misses jumping on the ball. a Steeler picks it up. I think it was Hilton, who was the Steeler who picked it up, ran towards the end zone like 20-plus yards. The only reason he didn't score then is because of a great rundown. Watch Jonathan Taylor's closing speed. It's ridiculous when he runs this guy down and tackles him like on the 3. And then, folks, the Steelers go 3 downs, unable to score from like the 3-yard line, and the only reason they end up getting a touchdown instead of a field goal is because on the 3rd down, the fucking Colts jumped off sides because they threw a pass that was incomplete. They would have had to kick a field goal, and it would have only been like 7-3 at that point. At the half, the score would have been 21-3, but the Colts fucking, in what was probably a harbinger of what was to come, they jump off sides there and give them another first down, and the next play is when Pittsburgh scores. But understand, that first half wasn't just good, it was great. Jason Taylor was running his ass off. Again, he was 3.8 yards per carry, but this is against the best defense, I believe, in the league. The timing passes were beautiful. In spite of the pressure that was coming, Phillip Rivers was putting on another clinic, continuing his clinic of the last 5-6 games. His passes were on time. They were perfectly placed. Hines was running, making plays. Our defense was completely shutting down the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. If you want to know how much so, just understand that at the end of the first half, our defense had only given up 73 total yards. Not passing yards, not rushing yards. 73 total yards to Pittsburgh in the first half. Is that good enough for your fucking ass? I mean, considering we're missing both of our offensive tackles, we really couldn't have asked for more in that first half except not having the fucking sack fumble. And as it would turn out, that single play, that sack fumble that turned into 7 points for the Steelers ended up being the game-winning points. If not for that, the Steelers only scored 21 points and we still win. But I am getting ahead of myself. So everything went great. And, it actually continued to go not too bad all the way into the second half. The Colts were not as hot on offense, but they still were able to get down and score another field goal. So it's 24-7. 24-7 with 5 minutes and 1 second left in the third quarter. 20 minutes and 1 second left in the entire game. The score is 24-7. And then we had to launch into the fucking bad. And let me start out by saying this. The thing that really you could see when you watch, because I went back and watched the game again, because my youngest son was climbing all over my head as I watched it the first time. So this time I was able to go back and really pay attention to watching what was happening on the field, watching what was happening in the lineups, watching the players. The bad, we really need to kind of look at one thing, the O-line depth. Okay, so in the second half, the Steelers made some adjustments. They started really putting pressure on Phillip Rivers. And again, we're missing our 2 tackles, but Jamarcus Webb and Chaz Green were trash, especially in that second half. And here we kind of got to really talk about the only true big-time misstep, I think, from the offseason that Chris Ballard made, not addressing the offensive line depth better. I mean, they believed in LaRaven Clark for some reason, but even if you set that aside, there's still not enough depth there, even behind LaRaven Clark. And it cost us in this game. The secondary got torched. What can I say? The last 20 minutes. Understand that the Pittsburgh Steelers scored 3 touchdowns, 21 points in 10 minutes of play. It's time now, I think, and I tweeted this out at Zach Kiefer during the game, it's time for us to go ahead and acknowledge now we have enough data in after almost 2 seasons to just go ahead and admit that Rock Ya-Sin was a miss. I'm not saying he's not a guy who can be a serviceable player, maybe a good backup for you, but as your first pick of the draft a couple of years ago, one that you moved down and you got him when you could have picked higher in the first round and had any number of better players, your sin is a miss. And I'll just say this, considering that the Quincy Wilson pick at like the 15th pick in the second round makes Rock Ya-Sin look like fucking Ty Law or Darrelle Revis, I think points to the fact that maybe they need to take a look at their criteria when they're picking defensive backs, period. I mean, I never missed fucking Marvell Tellmore in my life. Rock Ya-Sin, I think, is a miss now. He's being targeted every week. We can see that. There should be no surprise to anybody that the 39-yard pass, that was a one-play touchdown drive that the Steelers got that really got them back in the game, that came against guess who? Rock Ya-Sin. The guy just ran right fucking by him. I mean, it wasn't even press man. It wasn't even press man coverage. Rock Ya-Sin was back 7-8 yards from the guy. The guy just ran by him because Rick Venturi talked about this when he was drafted. You know, Rock's mechanics just aren't great yet, you know, when he turns to run with the receiver, and he just doesn't really have the speed. I just think it may be more than he can overcome, and now it looks like his confidence is hurt. He's a fucking disaster at this point. I'm glad they got TJ Carey back in for him, but they still had to rotate him because, you know, Khari Willis went out. And that led to the third big touchdown when we had Tavon Wilson in there instead of Khari Willis. Tavon got caught looking in the backfield. Now, it was due to a beautiful pump fake from Roethlisberger. But again, you know, when you have backups in there, eventually they show you why they're backups. Tavon bit on that, got out of position, led to a touchdown that we couldn't afford to give up. And that's the touchdown that literally put them ahead 28-24 and ended up being the winning points. But, I mean, it's almost hard to really call out anybody in that last 20 minutes. I mean, they just literally completely imploded, completely collapsed, completely fell apart. They did drop out of the fucking press man coverage and got into that zone. It's like they got scared and they started trying to play back and make the Steelers take a bunch of time. And what that did is actually allow Roethlisberger to get into a rhythm, and he got hot and started eating them up. And, you know, I feel like, look, you're up 17 points. Dance with the fucking one that brung you. Stay with the press man and live with it. You know, this team has proven that they cannot beat that press man consistently, and it worked for you the whole first three quarters. Why? I mean, yeah, you gave up a touchdown, but shit, that was against Rock Ya-Sin. Just stay with it. That being said, a lot of people talked about this. You know, Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines was hurting Pittsburgh in the running game in the first half. Now, look, you got 20 minutes left. You're up 17 points. Run the fucking ball. I don't give a fuck about the run pressures that they say the Steelers defense was in. I went back and watched the game. I'm not saying they weren't in some run pressures, but what I'm saying is I watched it. It wasn't all that different than what they were doing in the first half, and the Colts were proving that they were able to beat them in the running game. So, again, time is of the essence. You know they need 3 scores. They need at least more than 17 points. You got to use the clock there with the running game. If you do, I believe they win this game. And I don't know, man, Frank Reich, I'm really... If you go back, and I'm going to do a whole podcast on this, but if you go back and you look at the second half scoring, okay, for the Colts offense throughout this whole season, it hasn't been great. I think after the adjustments are made, it just seems like Reich, I don't know if he panics or he's not thinking I don't know what it is. It just doesn't seem like his play calling is as good in the second half after teams adjust. He was calling some great plays in the first half of this game against the Steelers. But in the second half, look, we didn't run any pitches. We didn't run any end-arounds, any draw play. Like none of that all was working like gangbusters and keeping the Steelers off balance in the first half. All that went away, and we just got into this drop-back game which is the exact worst thing you could do against a team that's already the best blitzing and pass rushing team in the league, and you're missing both your tackles. I mean, get real. All it was just bad in that last 20 minutes. And it led to what I have to say is the ugly. And like I said, it's the epic fail on both sides of the ball, coaching-wise, to adjust to what the Steelers were doing in that last 20 minutes. Not to mention, again, our secondary got ate up. It was just really ugly. But I'm going to give an honorable mention. And look, some people don't like to talk about this, but this is the Bullshit Free Colts podcast. I'm going to call it like it was. Fucking honorable mention in the ugliest sin category in that game was the fucking officiating. It was straight out of fucking Goodfellas movie style officiating, meaning it was hard not to believe that the fucking fix was in. I'm just being real about it. You go back and watch the game. 4 pass interference penalties against the Colts, and they all led to Pittsburgh scores. Big pass interference penalties that were putting them into the red zone inside the 5-yard line. Okay, and then Frank Reich says, well, we scouted this officiating crew. We knew they call it pretty tight on the back end. Why the fuck didn't they call it tight for the Colts? How the fuck do you not call that? Look, that pass interference against T.Y., like 3 yards from the end zone, right at the end of the game, that was fucking blatant. That's the whole reason you have the call. If you're not going to call that, you might as well just take pass interference out of the game. The guy knocks him down while the ball is in the air and is on a direct beeline to T.Y. T.Y. is going to catch it. Maybe go in for a score, but if nothing else, you're going to be inside the 10 with a minute left. A minute 14 seconds, I think. And a first down, 1st and goal. That's everything you need for the Colts to be in winning position. If you're not going to call that, how do you call the other fucking ones? Then I'm not even going to talk about the dumbass blocking the back penalty that happens after the running back is past that point. It doesn't even affect the play, and it was just barely he got his hands out. He didn't even touch the guy. The guy's already going to the ground. You call that, and you call back a 68-yard pass play that, again, would have led to at least 3 points. That would have been the 3 points that would have put the Colts in position to win. I mean, that is just bullshit. And then the final one, and I didn't see anybody talk about this except I think maybe one eagle-eyed ass Colts fan on Twitter. Here's the truth. Go back and look at the final pass play that Phillip Rivers threw, where he was a little high and Zach Pascal mistimed his jump a little bit. That was 4th and 7 or something like that. It would have given the Colts a first down at the 10-yard line. Okay, this is the final play. This is for all the marbles. Go back and watch that pass play, and you tell me that fucking Hightower, Highsmith, whatever his fucking Steelers name was, that was a roughing the passer all day. Phillip Rivers had clearly thrown that ball. The ball was well out of his hands. The guy could have pulled up. He went ahead and leveled Phillip Rivers after that play. Go back and watch it. It's clear as a fucking bell. I have seen that call for many, many, and much less. Go back and watch it and tell me I'm wrong. Convince me I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. That should have been a fucking 15-yard personal foul and an automatic first down. Again, that's 2 or 3 plays that cost the Colts the game. That fucking officiating crew was beyond terrible. But again, because all of the big calls went against the Colts, man, there's no way you could watch it and not have a side eye. Just go back and watch the whole game. You'll see. But whatever the case, look, when it's all said and done, even officiating aside, the Colts had that game and their season and the playoffs right in the palm of their hands, and they fucking choked it away. Nothing we say can do away with that. So let's hope one of the fucking 4 losses we need, we got a good chance that at least one of those 4 is going to fall our way, And then we can take care of business and beat the hell out of the Jacksonville Jaguars and get in the playoffs and go from there. But whatever the case, we had what we wanted. We had the chance. It was all in our hands. We blew it. So now we have to take care of business and hope for some help. That being said, let's look at the tiny silver lining behind this game that I talked about earlier. And we're going to do that in the next segment. You love it. I dig it. You know what we call it. Hard-ass questions. This week's question actually comes from an interesting place. It comes from Mike Chappell, a longtime beat writer and Colts reporter. And Mike Chappell asked, what do we need? What do the Colts need to be a true and legitimate Super Bowl contender? In other words, what do we need to be able to win a Super Bowl next year? Obviously, this year is a year we'd like to win a Super Bowl, but coming from the meltdown we had last year, only going 7-9, the next step you want to take this year is to get back into the playoffs and hopefully make some noise, win a game or two. We had a couple of things that we had to do this year that we weren't exactly sure how they were going to work out. The major one being bringing in Phillip Rivers as the quarterback. That has been a success. Phillip is playing well enough to take a team to the Super Bowl and win it, as long as the team is good enough around him. So we've got to look at next year. Let's assume the Colts make the playoffs and have a good showing. Let's say they win a game or two. What do they need to be a full-on, legitimate, even maybe favored Super Bowl contender next year? Well, this comes down really to a couple of things. There are always things that could be added and that need to be added, but it really comes down to just a couple of things, I believe. The number one thing, and if you watched the second half, particularly the last 20 minutes of that fucking meltdown abomination against the Steelers yesterday, here's what jumped out to you. The secondary didn't look good, but what could have fixed everything is if the Colts had been able to put pressure on Ben Roethlisberger's old and suddenly immobile ass. You go back and watch the film, you're going to see that last 20 minutes, he was standing back there waiting to throw the ball to whoever he wanted to. And no matter how good your secondary is, if a quarterback has enough time, especially a future Hall of Fame quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger, regardless of the fact that he may not have a bunch of big-time receivers out there, he's going to find people open. He's going to cut you up. And that's really what happened. Go back and look at the film, and you can look at the film from our other losses or even games that we struggled in this year, and you'll see this. We have got to have an elite edge rusher. We've got to have a consistently effective pass rush. What does that mean? That means, look, Dwight Freeney didn't get a sack every single game. He didn't get to the quarterback every single time, but he was always getting consistent pressure and making a quarterback have to account for him, making a quarterback have to get rid of that ball quickly, sometimes making a quarterback throw the ball before he wanted to, pressuring him into bad throws, mistakes, turnovers, etc. You watch the Colts right now. They're in great shape on their defensive line in the middle. Grover Stewart and, of course, DeForest Buckner are playing at a Pro Bowl level right now. They're playing championship defense. The linebackers are fantastic. They're fine. It's on the edges where we're just not getting enough consistent pressure. Justin Houston is fine, but I don't think he's, at this point, the guy who you can depend on. And, he might be okay if he's the second wheel. But on one of those edge spots, we've got to get somebody that is, as Rick Venturi says, an ambient player. We got to get somebody that keeps fucking defensive coordinators and quarterbacks up all night. Right now, we do not have that. Teray was in and out. He only played like 10 plays or something Sunday. So I don't know what's going on with that. But he's not supplied what we're looking for yet. And this is his second or third year. So it is what it is. We've got to get, by hook or crook, a consistent big-time edge rusher. Look, if I'm the Colts, I'm looking at edge rusher in this upcoming draft. That is the biggest thing. The next thing we really do need to look at, you got to get some offensive line depth. good offensive line depth, especially at the tackle position. I don't think LaRaven Clark is the answer. Obviously, Chaz Green and Jamarcus Webb are not. Maybe they could be part of but really, you got to get somebody solid there because, again, we can't afford to be in a position where if we have a tackle have to sit out a game or two, that those games are automatic losses and that it wreaks havoc, especially if we're going to have Rivers again next year or any quarterback that's not particularly mobile. That's a must. I think, though, along with edge rusher, probably the biggest thing we need is we've got to find another shutdown corner. I think Xavier Rhodes is outstanding. He's had a great year this year. The safeties are good to go. Kari Willis, our guy Blackman, they are great players. I believe they'll both make Pro Bowls eventually. But that other side, we got an issue. Now, TJ Carey's played well, but I don't have to tell you again, it's time to move on, I think, from the idea of Rock Ya-Sin being your starting corner on that other side. And, if he's good enough to beat somebody else out, great. But you got to find another shutdown corner to go on that other side. You get that, and we're in business. We're in business because I think the running game, we're in good hands. I hope they bring Mac back. But with Taylor and Hines, you've got game-breaking ability there. I believe Phillip Rivers will be back, and he will be good enough to win a Super Bowl as long as the team around him is strong. I think the other thing we need another wide receiver that can stretch the field. I'm hoping that is Paris Campbell, but goddamn, we never see this guy. We'll be going into his third season, and we've only seen him play 5-6 games. So that's something to look at. And one more thing. I really do believe they also need to look at an athletic tight end. I'm a big fan, obviously, of Jack Doyle. He's everything you need in a tight end. I like Mo Alley-Cox as well, but we got to look in the draft and try to find ourselves a fucking Kelsey or a George Kittle type. You feel me? Trey Burton, I hear he's a great guy, which is awesome. But, as they say in the movie, one of my favorite movies, Glengarry Glen Ross, great guy. Fuck you. Go home and play with your kids. Look, he may be a great guy, but he is not the answer at tight end. They said he had a great training camp. I have a hard time believing it because the dude drops fucking passes. He's not a great blocker. He runs routes wrong. The drops, man, you got to be dependable out there, period, in the story. So those are things that they need to address. I would look for an athletic tight end. They need offensive line depth, especially at the tackle, and they've got to come up with a big-time pass rusher, a consistent pass rush overall. You get those things, if you can get a shutdown corner, that'll only help. They can be good to go. They can become, I think, when you put that together with everybody having another year under their belt, including our rookies, and guys like the Maniac becoming full-on veterans, I believe they can do it next year. I really do. So that's the answer to the question. Get those things. We can hoist another Lombardi next year, baby. So this was a tough-ass loss, but look, 4 different teams. We just need one of them to lose, and the Colts to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, which after this fucking abomination they had against the Steelers, again, if they can't beat Jacksonville Jaguars, then they don't deserve to go to the playoffs. Let's go get that done. I appreciate you, as always, listening. This has been a tough one, but you know what? Brighter days are ahead. Let's go take care of business Sunday. So I will leave you, as always, for any Colts players, coaches, front office people who are listening, because I know some of y'all do. I'll leave you, as I always do, by saying, let's go out and win another fucking Lombardi, baby. Peace. And win another fucking Lombardi, baby. And win another fucking Lombardi, baby. And win another fucking Lombardi, baby.